Welcome to another episode of Culture 8 podcast brought to you by Ezini, your trusted partner in building thriving workplace cultures. Here we explore the intricate and dynamic world of organizational culture, uncovering insights and strategies to help leaders and teams foster environments where people and businesses grow together. Today, we are talking with Dr. Eugene Kolker, co-founder, president, and chief data and AI officer of Expedite. Welcome to the podcast, Gene. It's an honor to host you on the podcast today.
Gaurav, thank you very much for your invitation. It's honor to be on your podcast.
Thank you. Let's start off with, please tell us a little about Expedite.
Sure. So Expedite is a startup which I co-founded with my many-year friend. And the focus of the startup is to leverage AI, though we meant by AI not artificial intelligence, but we call it added intelligence. To leverage added intelligence into improving, significantly, drastically improving risk management, risk and compliance management. This is very painful process. Our focus is on financial services. I can give you one example of problems we are solving.
Yes, please.
Say you are a vendor, for example, fintech, and say you want to sell your product or your services to enterprise, say bank. Okay. Usually, the process takes between 6 to 18 months for you to onboard. Okay.
Right.
Why? Because it usually takes 3 iterations. Enterprise usually send you some forms to fill. These forms are hardly comprehensible. So, and you need not just to answer questions in those forms, but to provide materials to support your answers. So usually it takes 3 iterations. Success rate is roughly 1/3.
Wow.
And that's basically huge waste on both sides, on vendors and enterprises. And primarily with regard to people. People are unhappy, frustrated. So they are if they're able, they run from this as much as they can. As a result of it, businesses on both sides lose. Okay, vendors lose business opportunities, enterprises lose great new startups, vendors, quality, product and services. So that's kind of what we decided to tackle. And my friend is in that area for many years, like quarter century. And I was faced with these problems when I joined IBM in 16. I was VP and Chief Data Officer in Global Services. And in the second month, I realized that I'm in that exactly situation. My friend was telling me for I don't know how many years, a lot. Okay.
Right.
And then I realized that that's a major problem. Technology is not up to it. But finally, 2+ years ago, thanks to smart people in OpenAI, technology became very close to be doing this. And what we do in Expedite, we actually build in product/AI agents to solve these multiple problems in entire risk assessment, compliance assessment, management processes, plural. Okay, so that's what is Expedite about, and we are very excited about it. We have a fantastic team, so yeah, that's very exciting.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And I appreciate that what Expedite is doing. First of all, I love the fact that you used added intelligence instead of artificial intelligence. It's really what it is. AI is just the cumulative efforts of the humankind intelligence that is being available now for everyone to use. So that's great. And I really like the fact that what you pointed out, the pain point in the industries is when two companies are trying to really make sure that there is less risk, and yet there is so much of frustration because there's so much back and forth. There's a lot of time being wasted. There's a whole bunch of frustrations and maybe just not the best way forward for teams. And I like the fact that Expedite is there to solve that problem.
Thank you. Yeah, we're also very excited about that.
Awesome. So, so before we deep dive into your beliefs and organizational culture, let our audience know, what was your very first job like?
First job?
Yeah.
Wow, that was very long ago. Gaurav, I can tell you. So my first job was tutoring other students in high school. Okay, so that was my first job. It was hardly paid job, but it was first job because I took it very seriously, and I was very proud when my students were getting, instead of C, B plus or A minus. So that was my first job. Okay.
Fantastic. Well, each event and each struggle that we go through builds us and tells a lot about who you are as a person. And you just shared something great about yourself, that it mattered to you, not just the money, or it wasn't just there wasn't any money to speak about, but it mattered to you how your student fared in their exams, and it helps, right? It basically gives the notion that humankind is really out there to just serve each other.
Yes, I can tell you that I learned both kind of, I think, a lot from both sides of my family, my mom and my dad. So my mom was pediatrician. So, and sometimes we had no, um, how to put it, no money to afford babysitter. So when I was really young, I was sitting in the corridor in front of her office, and a lot of sick kids and parents, really unhappy, were coming through me. Okay, and my dad was an engineer, so I kind of learned both sides, like uh, being trying to help people. So, but I'm not good like as a doctor. I'm fake doctor. You call me doctor. I'm PhD, not real doctor. But I try to help them with technology, with processes, with
Yeah.
approaches. But really do help people.
Yeah. I mean, in all of us, we need that head and heart to be successful. And I think you've picked it up very nicely from your parents early on itself. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Well, let's move on to the topic. How do you see generative AI reshaping organizational cultures in in the coming years?
Yeah. So I'd say that um, we live in really interesting times, right? So there is a proverb, Chinese proverb, that um, about interesting times. So it could be read both ways. Could be great, could be not great, and opposite to great. Yeah, I think this is very exciting times because for the first time in my life, AI, whatever you define by AI, is able to bring real benefits to people,
Hmm.
to companies, to nonprofits, to communities. Okay. By the way, for fun of it, AI, as was originally defined as artificial intelligence, is 70 years old this year. In August of this year, is going to be 70 years old. Mm.
Oh, wow.
It experienced a lot of ups and downs,
Hmm.
several AI winters when nothing was really happening except very few exceptional places. And up until recently, success rate was far in between. Until last year, and it's not great nowadays, but until last year, very comprehensive, very thoughtful survey by Deloitte, for example, among other companies. But I really want to stress Deloitte analysis of 2,800 companies. And we didn't know where we are with generative AI. So as of middle end of last year, we are at 28% of success rate, meaning from pilot of generative AI into production. Okay.
Right.
And I'm teaching at NYU AI, and yesterday was one of my classes, and I discussed with students. So I asked them, do you think 28 is good or it's bad news, right? And most of them were like logically thinking, of course it's a bad news, right? Because 28% success rate means 72 failure rate.
Hmm.
And I thought, yeah, but compared to what we knew before, say a year ago, compared to fall of last year,
Right.
success rate was below 20%. Okay, and it was not moving between 15 and 20 for many years, maybe decade. So we are definitely making significant improvements in using generative AI. Yeah, it's not what we would like to have, but usually by Amara law, in the short term, right, we people expect much more from technologies that technologies can bring to us. But in
Right.
the long term, we kind of underestimate abilities of technology to change our lives and bring benefits. Okay, so I think
Interesting.
we are in a very good spot right now. Very good spot.
Interesting. Yeah, the pace of technology is definitely outpacing what's the ability of organizations out there to adopt it, and that shows in the statistics. But as you said, just the fact that in 1 year it has moved a big notch is testament to the fact that the organizations are accepting it, adopting it, and then changing within themselves to be able to utilize it for their success.
Yes, I couldn't
Awesome.
agree with you more.
Thank you. Um, so, what are the most common culture challenges organizations face when trying to build or to adopt generative AI? And are these challenges more in leadership mindset, team dynamics, or the organizational structure?
That's a great, very loaded question. So, Gaurav, how much time do we have? Do we have a couple hours to talk about that question specifically?
I'm sure we can, but our audience will probably go to sleep.
Yeah, so let's shrink it to a smaller amount of time. So, in your question, there are multiple answers, and all are correct. It goes from top to bottom and from bottom to top. Okay, and it goes like as usual. People go first, right? So it's
Hmm.
about culture, about
Mhm.
traditions, about our perception, which is our reality. So a lot regarding people, again, from top to bottom and from bottom up. It's a lot about processes, right? Processes of today companies, majority of them are not built um, taking into account what these new revolutionary approaches can bring to bear. Okay,
Right.
so and technology itself, as you were saying, is changing so fast. Just fun fact. Um, I know you read my. This is very shameless PR of my LinkedIn posts. Okay, but a week ago, I usually do it on Tuesday, so a week plus 2 days ago, I published something about deep research.
Hmm.
It was new deep research product, this time by Perplexity. Okay, and before there was deep research product by OpenAI, and originally there was deep research product by Google. So as a kind of semi joke, I asked in my post mighty Anthropic and Amazon if they're planning to come up with their own deep research. Okay, the funny thing, of course, it's coincidence, but the funny thing, within the week, both came up with their own deep research capabilities. Okay,
Right.
so my point is that technology is changing so fast,
So fast. Yeah.
so we need to adapt our processes and our kind of thinking about it, our approaches, how to deal with these ever-changing technologies, right?
Yeah.
So that's a huge problem. You know, I I kind of feel for like people who run large organizations. When I was at IBM, that was pretty large,
Yeah.
and our part of IBM was more than 100,000 people. It was
Hmm.
humongous. So people on the top. Imagine, let's talk about somebody like me, chief data analytics officer, chief data and AI officer, right? And such. These people under enormous pressure from any angle, from the top, from CEO, from the boards, because everybody knows we need to implement this generative AI
Yeah.
approaches now, yesterday. From the bottom, especially younger, colleagues, right, who are
Yeah.
really playing with it left and right and really skillful in this,
Yes.
and then you need to deliver. You need to show ROI, which is
Yeah.
not easy. It's not
No.
easy. So you go to different level. People are taking, and especially large hierarchies, like where we are in today's business. This is very difficult to do, and then processes are not matched to what new capabilities are able to do. Agile is fantastic.
Yeah.
Waterfall approaches also make sense when they're appropriate, but things changing so fast that
Yeah.
agile looks like waterfall. Okay,
Right.
so how are you gonna adjust to this, and how are you gonna leverage it with real ROI, not just on paper, but in real life for your customers? This is very non-trivial kind of issues.
You've That's a perfect answer. And there's a you have raised so many important points. First of all, for sure, people, we have to have a people strategy, and it has to be adopted. Like you said, everything needs to be adopted as of yesterday because of the change of pace. The very interesting part that you mentioned is about the processes not being updated. So what you're really saying is most organizations, large or small, maybe the larger companies can take and their inspiration from smaller companies, how they perform and they work, but they need to start to overhaul their system to carry out organizational design structures, policies, processes that would allow these teams to be faster in adoption and to execution, not just adoption, but to execute. And as you mentioned, rightly so, get the return on investment. So that is very interesting fact. Um, I know you mentioned agile, and to be honest with you, I think that's my answer for such a challenge about how companies need to or to be in a shape to adopt such new technologies and faster because but main thing from agile is what I think is the self-managing aspect of organizations is what I would recommend for organizations to be able to adopt to this new technologies because you will have smaller teams adopt these technologies and they're able to self-manage what decisions they need to make, what targets they have, what is the value they need to create, and what technologies they need to learn, adopt, and execute with. So that's just my thought. But here we are sitting on this side and talking about it, but the real life situation is obviously much, much more complex. But my idea is that complexity is all around us. And the only way to move forward is with the growth mindset and with the agile mindset is what's going to allow them to be successful.
I agree with you. Um, um, English is my fourth language, so I'm a little bit challenged. So nowadays, I prefer to use advanced agile. Why advanced agile? Because agile during last couple decades became a little bit still
Hmm.
compared to changes we are witnessing as we speak
Hmm.
nowadays. Okay, so sometimes agile in places when I visit the customers, my clients, when I do consulting, sometimes they are on paper agile, but in reality, they became a bit rigid, okay?
Yeah.
Because it became important to follow tradition of agile rather than being truly agile. So
Hmm.
I try to tilt it a little bit with advanced agile, and
Makes
people
sense.
usually, kind of react positive on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, absolutely. You're right. And thank you. All right. That was a great question, and your response was awesome. let's move on. There's a big situation with trust and transparency. So these are vital in any culture transformation, right? How can leaders build trust around generative AI adoption, especially when employees fear the job displacement?
Yeah, this is like huge elephant in the room. Yeah, so um, with regard to job displacement, so I would say something which I learned hard way again myself, and since then I use it and I tell everybody and anybody who would like to listen. Um, so where when you are in front of major transformational changes, okay, um, especially those which are new, okay, not those you've done it and done it, have done it before, but something new, which is the case right now for absolute majority of people, leaders or not, okay, influencers, key stakeholders. Um, so I think the best is I use this kind of gym analogy. Like I'm going to gym. I know it's hard to tell looking at me, but I'm going to gym like um, 5 days a week. I know it, nobody believes it, but that's the case. So um, when I go to gym, when I first started going to gym, I see all those tools, this equipment, so many of them. I don't know. I counted more than 20 different types.
Hmm.
Okay, and each of them, not each, almost all of them had some variation on the, how it can be used,
Hmm.
and I was shocked. Okay, so I used 2.5, which I knew before from my previous experience in gym. Okay, results were so. Okay, at some point I realized that there are people who um, kind of, how to put it, they're in my weight category, and they're not doing it by themselves. They're using coaches, they're using trainers.
Hmm.
So I started looking at the coaches and trainers, and then realized that there are a couple that are really good. And one I chose after watching this person for over 2 months, working with other people. Working with other people means something really positive and great, but when you look at those people, it's really tough. But this person is actually elevates people like me. So I chose one of them, done, and now I'm working with him um, for second month, and the results are very different. Okay,
Hmm.
so I would highly recommend not to repeat my own mistakes. So my first startup, biotech, was acquired. I became chief data officer in 2007,
Hmm.
and for 2 years, I was trying to bring data culture, analytics approaches into healthcare organization.
Hmm.
Great, heard about children, patients, families, but not accustomed to this. And I miserably was failing
Hmm.
until one day, two of my mentors came to me and told, Eugene, what you're doing looks like, by definition of smart people, insanity. You're trying for 2 years,
Hmm.
you're not penetrating,
Hmm.
except specific successes. You're not changing the culture, it's not transformational. So
Hmm.
maybe you do something else. So the question was, what else can I do? I tried everything during the last 2 years. And they suggested, how about you're going to bring um, mm, consultants? How you going to bring a coach
Hmm.
on data and analytics and those kind of approaches? That was like a word from above, okay? And within a year, situation changed drastically because those people came not only with understanding, deep understanding of issues, but also with prior experience of transformational changes.
Fantastic.
So that's the same story with gym coach. This person knows much more than I would know for the rest of my life, and
Yes.
he knows that this working for people of my stature, and this is not. This is more effective, and this is less. And he knows how to deal with people like me. So he basically, as long as these consultants, right, your coaches, AI coaches, edit intelligence coaches, can help you and put your interests,
Yeah.
your business interest above and beyond anything else, you're going to be good. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't make the same mistakes other people doing for many years. Learn from the best, whom you can trust. That's important. You need to trust. There should be neutral, trusted advisors. If that's the case, you're going to be doing great.
I love it. I love everything that you said just now, and especially for the fact that you raised the importance of the consultants like you and I in different. Of course, your field is AI and data. Mine is organization cultures, and it does make a difference if you bring upon the external parties into your organization to help to do carry out the transformation. Um, Something what you said earlier on is reminiscent of the post that I had on LinkedIn. We fall back on what we know first, and and 20 machines, right? It's intimidating. You probably will fall back. Oh, this is what I know. I'll just do this. And as you said, you don't really gain the effort or the return on investment on your effort. And when you bring in consultants, it speeds or fast tracks your adoption of these different tools, uh, tailored to what your challenges are, and then you start seeing results which will actually make an impact to what you're really looking for. I love that part. um, that's great. It's basically what you're trying to say is that bring in these consultants that will raise your awareness because they are bringing the outside knowledge and different perspectives to your organization. So
Yes,
fantastic.
and what's important, if you get to choose the right advisors, they should be trusted, they should be
Yes.
neutral, they
Yes.
shouldn't have any dog in the fight, right? And they come in as neutral, trusted advisors, and everybody considers them like that. So your colleagues who are could be on different positions in the hierarchy, who could be different positions with regard to generative AI. It's too risky, is cutting edge, it's bleeding edge. Do we want to bleed? No, we don't. So issues with regard to jobs, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about losing jobs to AI. That's something why my mentor Leroy Hood told me 26 years ago. He told me, Gene, it's not going to be AI who's going to be taking job from people. It's going to be other people who know how to use AI.
Yes.
They're going to be getting better in our evolutionary trials, okay? Which is the case.
You said the word. It's the evolution, and AI is being the evolution of all the thousands of years of humanity's knowledge brought into one place. And now it is up to us to use that gene, the DNA, to extract how do we survive in the new complex world. So fantastic. Um, Let me move on to from a culture perspective, what differentiate companies that successfully integrate generative AI and from those that struggle?
I think I'm going to sound like broken machine, okay? I think emphasis on people and bringing benefits, real benefits to people, actually is the top differentiator between those two types of companies. If you are after short win, um, if you are after immediately recuperating your expenses,
Hmm.
you're gonna lose. Okay,
Right.
you need to think about your customers. At some point, I even published an article, and they call it Uber customers. When Uber became, you know, uh, well-known sensation, right? Super customers, right? So customers of your customers, yeah. You have internal customers, especially if you're in a large organization or small. Your CEO is your customer. Your board is your customers.
Yeah.
Your colleagues are customers. You have influencers, stakeholders, managers, your people in your team, they're also your customers.
Yep.
But in addition to them, internal customers, you have external or super customers. You
Yep.
better align your Gen AI projects, developments with their needs. What different benefits and superior to what you're doing right now you can bring to them. That's the differentiator, utmost differentiator, comparing those two types, successful versus not.
Fantastic. And you said a lot in just what your response was. First of all, saying that there is, we need to cater to all people equal to stakeholders. Everybody is a stakeholder in your organization, community, people, your leadership, your customers, your partners, your investors, everybody. And then super customers, that's where our focus should be. So, and then also the fact that when you think about strategic decisions, and this is pretty much what we have to be doing, is these strategic decisions about generative AI adoption, they will have impact not immediately, beyond our learning horizon, probably years from now. That's where we will probably also see major benefits coming in. So if we shouldn't be short-sighted and just look at, hey, what can I get within 6 months? And I know there's a whole lot of conversation out there, leaders thinking, what can I get quickly? What can I get responses quickly? Yes, you focus on that, but also focus on a bigger picture. You cannot just think about 6 months down the line. That's a very American kind of a culture, where the timeline, this is very macro culture perspective, is that their vision or our vision is very short term basis, not long term, like where other countries like Russia or India or other Asian countries, they do think about past and they think about the future as well.
I couldn't agree with you more. I would say that um, one shouldn't sacrifice another, right? So yes, you need to go after easy wins,
Yes.
short wins. You need to
Yes.
show it can deliver something which you're not doing right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, at the same time, you need to think about midterm, outcomes. What can
Yeah.
we do in midterm? And then you 100% correct. You need to think strategically, long term. Okay.
Yeah.
For that one, I think another point which I'd like to make is that it's extremely important if boards, okay, which are also under pressure from anybody else,
Yes.
they need to deliver, and they're pressuring CEO and C level, and then it goes down through entire organizations.
Yeah.
Boards should understand they need to be aware that, again, even with whatever advancement we just made during last couple years, okay, it's very beginning of the whole process, right? And the
Yeah.
process is not sprint, it's marathon, okay? So for that one, they need to be more empathetic to CEOs, to C-level decision makers, because yeah, people are gonna make mistakes. Yes, they're gonna do things wrongly.
Yeah.
That's okay, as
Yeah.
long as they have North Star, which is really aligned with business needs of your super customers, and you're gonna get there again if you have trusted neutral advisors who are gonna be thinking about you, not about making their own buck. This is
Yeah.
very important distinction between advisors, consultants, and consultants advisors, right? So it's very important.
I like how you said it, but and then and there was a point that I wanted to make over here, was the fact that as a consultant and as a trusted advisor myself, when you said, if I'm working with a client, I don't have a dog in the fight. I actually do. That's my customer is my skin in the game. I want my customer to succeed. That's the only way that I'm gonna succeed. It's a win-win requirement. If they win, I win. If you win, I win. Everybody wins is when everybody else is going to win as well. That's the mentality. That's the mindset that we need to have
Yeah,
today.
my point is, I agree with you 100%, Gaurav. You know that. So I think my point is that when you have somebody who is not within
Yeah.
the org, right? And within the org, people are already positions and where they are, right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of, it goes above this kind of positioning and fights, whatever we call them, relationships, right?
Yeah.
So if you have higher goal to deliver to those, to make it win-win-win for all sides, especially for customers,
Yeah.
that's the key.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you. Great conversation, Eugene. This is fantastic. Uh, One last question, and then we'll go to rapid round. What advice would you give leaders who are just starting their generative AI adoption journey and want to create a culture ready for this transformation?
Learn from the best. Don't reinvent the wheel. Think about gym analogy. Get gym coach, get AI coach.
Right.
Don't be intimidated that it's artificial and it sounds artificial and intimidating. Think about its added intelligence. Don't you want to have 24/7 smart assistant who can do everything and anything you need to? You would like to. So play that game. Think about short-term wins. Think about mid-term outcomes, and don't forget about strategy and long-term, benefits. If you can align all this, and again, don't do it yourself. Don't make mistakes other people we've done for years. Do it together with somebody you can trust and skillful. That would be a really good kind of take on these new times. Okay.
I love it. And I'll be honest with you, I'll shamelessly do my own PR. Just like you mentioned about hiring working with a generative AI coach, the need is to have the generative AI, the organizational culture coach come together to give you that strategy or the roadmap, the ability to be able to gain both like, all three timelines that you mentioned: short term, mid term, and long term.
Yeah, and focus on people, because
Yes,
through people you're gonna succeed. If you're gonna focus on technology, you're definitely gonna lose.
I
If you're
love
gonna
it.
focus on processes, it's not enough. You need to focus on people and empower them with processes through technology.
I
That's
love
the
it.
kind of game. So, and that is working, and we have successes already. By the way, look around your industry, look around your region. Don't reinvent the wheel. Look
Yeah.
from those who succeeding, and you're gonna be really good shape in very short time. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say one thing just real quick on this before we move on. Uh, Microsoft is a huge company, and looking at them, they are reaping benefits about how they invested in their organization culture, their people, their processes. They have changed. They have remodeled everything within themselves, and of course, they are at the forefront of artificial intelligence in the world today. So
I
great.
could agree with you on 200%. I would say that Microsoft and Nvidia, and specifically Satya and Jensen,
Yeah.
they're playing multidimensional chess,
Yes.
and others should look at how they're doing it. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Microsoft culture today. I've been a fan of theirs ever since I got into this field. So this is great conversation. All right, so time for some rapid fire questions. Gene, what book do you recommend the most?
Okay. So, wow, one book, not like one. Okay, fine. You know what? On this subject, on AI, I don't know if you know this or not, but there is this brilliant guy from DC area, Jeffrey Dean. Okay, and he published book called "Technology and the Rise of Great Powers: How Diffusion Shapes Economic Competition."
Hmm.
I like this book like a lot. This is very thoughtful, very deep book. Invites conversation and thinking over. And by the way, it was published on August 20th, which is my birthday. So I double recommend this book. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you. What's the one thing people would be surprised to learn about you besides that you go to gym?
I think that's the best surprise people would learn about me. I couldn't be that, because when I tell people I do it 5 days a week, everybody is like trying to be polite, okay, and encouraging. But really, it looks like their faces showing they really hard time to believe in that.
Well, impact is over long term. We will see that, and I'm sure if you're consistent, that's one of the key part that I talk about a lot. being consistent is what helps. So if you're going to be consistent, you're going to see the results, and people are not going to be surprised by that anymore.
And Gaurav, we discussed it. I'm not for short-term wins. It's obviously strategic, right?
Yes.
So
Fantastic. Well, very important question for now. How can our listeners connect with you?
it's very easy. So my email is very easy. It's Eugene at Kolker.ai.
Wow, that is great. Well, and of course, yeah, they can find you on LinkedIn and
Yes.
on the Expedite website as well. I will be sure to make sure that there is information about it in the flyers of this podcast. So thank you, Eugene. This was a great conversation. And there you have it, folks. So fantastic to have you, Eugene. And thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Gaurav. Fantastic questions. I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Same here.